December 1944. The Ardennes forest transforms into a frozen graveyard as German forces launch their desperate winter offensive. American soldiers, caught unprepared in the bitter cold, huddle in snow-covered foxholes where temperatures plunge to -20 degrees Fahrenheit. The ground beneath them is iron-hard, unforgiving. Many lack proper winter gear, their standard-issue wool uniforms offering pitiful protection against the biting wind that cuts through the trees like invisible razors. In these conditions, the line between survival and death isn't drawn by enemy fire alone. It's determined by a soldier's ability to maintain core body temperature through the endless, dark winter nights. This is where an overlooked piece of military innovation becomes the difference between waking to another dawn or, succumbing to hypothermia in the pre-dawn hours. The sleeping tube, a cocoon of insulation that military engineers designed to trap the one resource every freezing soldier possessed, their own body heat. Engineering, survival, the evolution of military sleep systems. Before the mummy-style sleeping bag revolutionized cold-weather survival, soldiers made do with rectangular wool blankets that provided minimal protection against moisture and wind. In the earlier years of the war, soldiers really had to make do with whatever they could find. Shelter halves were often wrapped around themselves and doubled up as ground cloths. Some even stuffed spare uniforms with newspaper for a bit of extra insulation. There were times when captured enemy greatcoats were pressed into service just to keep the cold at bay. But, the development of the mountain sleeping bag, and later the M1945 model, was truly a quantum leap in survival technology. These bags used a tubular, form-fitting design that got rid of those dead air spaces where precious warmth would otherwise escape. The outer shell was made from water-repellent canvas, which did a great job of shedding rain and snow, while the inner downfilling created thousands of tiny air pockets, trapping heat with remarkable efficiency. The mummy shape itself, well, that was no accident. By conforming closely to the body's contours and featuring a drawstring hood, it really minimized the internal volume that needed warming. Plus, it protected the head, which is where up to 40% of body heat can radiate away in cold conditions. Understanding the sleeping tube's design is only half the battle. Survival demanded knowledge that turned simple equipment into life-saving shelter. Experienced soldiers knew that moisture was a silent killer. Sweat from the day's exertions would condense inside a sleeping bag, turning insulation into a damp, heat-stealing tomb. Before dark, men would air out their bags whenever possible, shaking them vigorously to restore loft to compressed down filling. They learned to sleep in dry undergarments only, keeping their damp outer uniforms at the bag's foot, where body heat could slowly dry them overnight. The ground itself posed another deadly threat. Frozen earth conducts heat away from the body with ruthless efficiency, so soldiers improvised insulation layers, pine boughs arranged in a thick mat, dry leaves stuffed into shelter halves, even cardboard from ration boxes flattened beneath their bags. Some veterans swore by the technique of combining 4 shelter halves into a makeshift tent, creating an insulated microclimate where shared body heat from 2 or 3 men raised the temperature enough that their sleeping bags could work effectively. When regulation equipment failed to arrive or proved insufficient, soldiers became innovators born of necessity. The rubberized gum blanket, originally designed as a ground cloth, became a critical moisture barrier that prevented snowmelt from soaking through from below. Men discovered that heating smooth stones near small fires and wrapping them in cloth created makeshift heat sources that could be tucked into sleeping bags, though this carried risks of burns, or worse, carbon monoxide poisoning if embers weren't fully extinguished. Metal canteen cups filled with hot water from evening rations served as personal radiators, clutched against the chest or stomach until sleep arrived. Some soldiers even employed the controversial practice of sleeping in pairs, back-to-back inside overlapped bags, their combined body heat creating a survival advantage that pride couldn't afford to refuse. These weren't official tactics taught in training manuals. They were hard-won knowledge passed soldier to soldier in quiet moments before darkness fell, survival wisdom that separated the frostbitten from those who lived to fight another day. The sleeping systems that emerged from World War II's frozen battlefields weren't merely military equipment. They represented a fundamental understanding of how humans survive in hostile environments when technology and preparation meet desperate necessity. So, today's ultralight backpacking bags, expedition sleep systems, and emergency bivouacs all, well, trace their lineage to those mummy-shaped tubes that kept soldiers alive through winter's worst. The principles remain unchanged: trap heat, shed moisture, insulate from the ground, and, minimize dead air space. For modern survivalists and bushcraft enthusiasts, these wartime lessons offer more than just historical curiosity. They provide time-tested knowledge for anyone who might face a night when shelter means everything. The soldiers who shivered through the Bulge understood something essential. Survival isn't about having perfect gear. It's about understanding the principles that make any gear work. Subscribe to Fieldcraft Chronicles and share this with anyone who values the intersection of history, self-reliance, and the enduring art of staying alive when nature tests your resolve.